Hello, and welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. My name is Maddie, Kendra Nielsen COO, and today we'll be listening to episode 241, The Gut-Brain Connection, Transforming Your Mental Health and Family Life with Lisa Smith. We hope you enjoy.
Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. Today we have a special guest, Lisa Smith, with us. She's a functional medicine dietitian and gut health expert with dual master's degrees in nutrition and human biology. She's a certified health and wellness coach and functional nutrition practitioner, and she helps clients overcome exhaustion, gut issues, and hormonal imbalances. Lisa hosts the globally ranked Pretty Well podcast, sharing science-backed strategies for gut health and wellness. Thank you, Lisa, so much for coming on our show today.
I'm so excited to be here, Kendra. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So just tell us briefly a little bit about how you got into this space, why you're passionate about it, why you love it.
My whole life. My grandfather was a cancer surgeon. We used to visit him every Easter and Thanksgiving. His patients would bring the Easter ham and the Thanksgiving turkey. He stopped doing surgery, but he would still see patients. They would come and say to us every year, mind you, your grandfather saved my life. Your grandfather saved my wife's life, whatever it was. And they were so indebted bringing these holiday meals. That fascinated me. And I don't know, it must be my personality too. We were a lot alike in personality. I remember saying to him being little, can you, what's up with that? And he said, I'd much rather help people prevent this horrible disease than try to help them heal after. And I said, can you actually prevent cancer? And he said, oh, in a lot of cases, you can prevent cancer. That got lodged in my psyche. And I decided at a very young age, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to help people prevent cancer. I took a much longer road than that. I ended up more generally as a holistic health practitioner and then a functional medicine nutrition practitioner. I opened a clinic and did all the things. But that was through a long road. Finally, I got there after having children, and that's what started me on this path.
Did your grandpa ever get to see you in this space?
He did not. He passed away when I was a senior in college, but I hope he knows. I hope from heaven God allows people to see things like that. He's been my inspiration all those years. He was amazing.
I love that legacy too, just generationally helping people become their best selves, especially when it comes to wellness and gut health. So tell me a little bit about this too, because our listeners, I talk a lot about mental health and wellness, but I haven't specifically talked a lot about gut health, these types of things when it comes to the physical body. So can you
Sure.
break that down a little bit for us, why that's
Yeah.
important and what that has to do with mental health and wellness?
It has so much to do with it, Kendra. Our gut, this is fascinating. When we are developing in our mother's womb, our brain and our gut are the same group of tissues. As we grow, our brain and our gut separate, but it comes from the same origin. And then they separate and they're attached by that longest nerve in our body, the vagus nerve. That's why we often see the gut referred to as our second brain. That's why sometimes you do a gut check, right? You know in your head, oh, I may want to make this decision when you do a gut check, where something doesn't feel right in your gut if it doesn't resonate well with you. Our gut and brain are so intricately connected that if our gut is not well, our brain cannot be well. If we have leaky gut, we have leaky brain and other leaky vessels as well. It's not just concentrated to that one area of the body. So really, as we're working to improve our wellness all around, like mind, body, and spirit, we've got to realize, even as we're working on our mental health, that we do need to work on our gut health too, to get where we truly want to get.
Absolutely. And that makes a lot of sense. I actually hadn't really thought about that before, them being connected, the brain and the gut early on, and then now just being connected by that vagal nerve. And I know some of this in different deeper trainings that I've gone into, but I don't know a lot about certain things. I read about it here and there, which I'm sure a lot of listeners are the same. Tell us a little bit about leaky gut. And again, why does
Yeah.
this matter? What can they do about it?
Yeah, leaky gut's one of those things. I actually suspected I had it many years ago before it became a buzzword. I've always been a nerd, a geek. I like this stuff. This is my reading. This is what I've always read about research and what's happening to cutting edge information that helps us be our healthiest. I went to my general practitioner. I had Hashimoto's, but I had so many gut issues, Kendra. I said to him, I think I have leaky gut. And he laughed at me. He literally laughed at me and scoffed at me basically and said, there's no such thing as leaky gut. Had I been thinking, I should have said intestinal hyperpermeability because it sounds more official. It's the same thing. But leaky gut is, imagine your digestive tract as a hose from your mouth to your butt. It's just one hose. And that hose is designed to be selectively permeable, meaning once everything is broken down in your GI tract, your food is broken down microscopically to the perfect size, then permeate across that membrane selectively. So it'll come through selectively. Not everything, just the body needs will come through and then go into your bloodstream. Leaky gut is as if someone came and poked holes all through that hose of yours, right? Now you have these little, and it's more like a sprinkler. You turn that hose on when you connect it to your spigot. And instead of just water coming out the end, now it's springing through that hose. That is a great picture of what happens with leaky gut. The wall of your intestines is supposed to be very tight. They're called tight junctions. But what happens is you start getting these little gaps. And those gaps allow particles, molecules, they're still microscopic, but it allows these microscopic molecules to come through your gut into your bloodstream before they're supposed to. And your body, its brilliance, knows that is a threat. So now food or other things that you've ingested that are going through and shouldn't be are seen as a threat, like a bacteria or a virus or a parasite. And your body mounts an immune response to that. And then you have an ongoing immune response and inflammation. So leaky gut, that's why it throws everything off, because now you've got systemic inflammation that's chronic. It could be low grade, it could be more severe, and you start getting all these weird symptoms.
Can you share what some of those might be? So you said chronic inflammation. What else might show up?
Yeah. So the obvious things are gut issues. You start getting bloating, stomach aches, food sensitivities, and food intolerances are a huge indicator of leaky gut. GERD, IBS, is a syndrome. It's a grouping of symptoms that if a doctor doesn't know what the heck's going on, but you have this grouping of symptoms like bloating, gas, stomach pain, constipation, and or diarrhea, all those things, and they can't figure it out, they'll group it in and say it's IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. IBD, irritable bowel disease, is Crohn's and colitis, ulcerative colitis. So that's the difference. And those types of obvious symptoms are the gut symptoms, right? But then the less obvious could be strange things like skin rashes, eczema, psoriasis, migraines, joint pain, chronic fatigue, things that you just can't put your finger on, but you just know you're not feeling right. Something's not right.
If listeners don't know much about leaky gut and what you just described resonated with them, like they're feeling fatigue, they're feeling inflammation, a lot of bloating, doctors don't really have an idea of what it is, and they're just feeling really stuck. What would you recommend that they do?
Great question. Another thing is brain fog. If they've got these symptoms and they're like, I can't put my finger on it, and my tests keep coming back fine, that is one of the most frustrating things in the world. And those are actually most of the clients I've seen. They've gone to multiple doctors. They're finally sitting across from me and they're like, everyone says I'm fine. My blood work's fine. Nothing's wrong with me, but I have all these symptoms. If you feel like, wait a minute, you're describing me, it's so frustrating. I'm not going to guarantee it's leaky gut, but you can be assured that leaky gut may be going on in the background. You can have other things in leaky gut and not know it as well. I would venture to say with our food supply and the toxins, all the things that just layer on top of each other, I think probably a vast majority of us have some degree of leaky gut.
I'm thinking about my daughter. My daughter has some of these things. She's a senior. She's going to be graduating soon. And we've taken her to a lot of specialists, and they said exactly that. The tests are fine. She's fine. It's all in her head. And me as a therapist, I'm like, I can help with the head part. But even then, things are not helping. What is the next step? What would you recommend for them? Is it diet?
Yeah.
Is it what?
Yeah. So I recommend a few different steps. First of all, like I always say, when someone comes to me, remove, replace, restore. A very simple framework. Practitioners, they do the 5 R's. It's like remove, replace, reinoculate, blah, blah, blah. Just to keep it simple, remove, replace, restore. If we do those 3 things, we're addressing what we need to. So first of all, we got to remove what we know our problems. So number one, we removed ultra processed foods, things that have artificial sweeteners, artificial colors, artificial flavors, pesticides, herbicides, glyphosate, those kinds of things. We remove those because we know those contribute to chronic inflammation. We don't want something that is adding fuel to the fire. What else we remove? If someone says, every time I eat chicken or every time I eat pork or rice, it could be something healthy. Every time I eat tomatoes, I don't feel well. Pay attention. That is your body saying it doesn't like that. It's being seen as a harmful substance, even if it's a really healthy food. It may not be healthy for you, or in your case, for your daughter. So anything that you don't feel well after you eat, get rid of it for a good month. You can find other replacements. We live in a wonderful time where there's so many alternatives in the food world that are fairly healthy that we can replace things with. Remove things that low hanging fruit. We have to replace some deficiencies. And generally, the deficiencies I see in practice, easy things that we can replace. Magnesium, most people are deficient in magnesium. B vitamins, so a really good methylated complex, because we get most of our B vitamins from red meat. Who eats red meat all the time anymore? Very few of us do. Those are some really easy things that do hundreds of functions in the body. So if you're deficient in them, those are an easy fix. So what I do as a practitioner is I look at some clear deficiencies. Usually I'll do that based on a food journal. As a dietitian, I can look and say, you seem to be low in potassium, magnesium, B vitamins, something simple like that. And then restore, now we want to get in there. We want to fix those holes in the lining, right? So we want it to go from here to here so that hose is repaired again. And there's some really good supplements for you do those for a few months, maybe several months, depending on the severity. And typically there are combination products, so you don't have to buy 6 different things. But you're looking for a product that has L-glutamine, zinc carnosine, slippery elm, marshmallow root. These are all things that are very healing and they're fuel for your enterocytes. Enterocytes are just the cells that make up that gut. So you want that fuel and you want those supplements that will go in and start healing and soothing that area. So those are the 3 things. And then I do like to throw one other on there because stress plays an enormous role. So mental health, not only does the gut influence the brain, but the brain influences the gut. So high levels of cortisol, chronic elevations of cortisol actually can cause leaky gut. So you want to make sure that we're addressing the stress levels, the cortisol levels, emotional well-being, mental well-being.
Absolutely. That's my forte. I can definitely speak to that for sure. But I love these other things that you're saying. I didn't know certain supplements like these would be great. And I love how it's simplified into remove, replace, restore, and little things that you can do for that. If listeners are like, oh, I want to get something like that, where would you suggest getting a supplement that maybe has all of those things? Do you have any recommendation?
I really recommend finding someone who works with that because they're going to help personalize it. I'm not a big fan of saying, let's go buy some supplements and try them because if the right steps aren't being taken, probiotics need to get in there too at some point as well. But if the right steps aren't being taken, it's something they're going to chase over and end up wasting more money in the long run. I'm always a little hesitant about supplements just self-administered when they're more specialized, not like a vitamin B complex. I feel pretty confident that would be helpful to many, if not most people. Same with magnesium. But when we're starting to look at targeted gut healing, I can name the ones I love, but I would really recommend working with someone just in case they say, you know what, I don't think this one's going to be best for you. Maybe you're on a medication. Maybe you're trying to get pregnant. Maybe there's some other things going on. So that's why I feel most confident with that. But my favorites, I really like a company called Designs for Health, and they have a GI Revive. That's fantastic. So there's a drink mix form. So you would mix it in water. There's a capsule form. The capsules, you have to take something like 7 a day. It's a lot and they're big. So it's nicer to do the drink mix. Amazon's definitely an option, but sometimes I wonder, is it legit or is it someone who's a knockoff who's putting on a label? And I get a little sketched out by that. So that gives a little bit of guidance.
Right.
Anyone can start to remove and restore. And if you are looking for like a good magnesium or a good B complex, pure encapsulations has always been a safe bet. They're top notch, usually practitioner designed products. So they're really good too.
That's a great starting place. Lisa, do you mind sharing whether it's a personal story or a story with a client, like what can actually happen when we do these three things: remove, replace, restore? What does that look
Yes.
like?
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. So I have different clients who come to mind who have done different things with these approaches to healing. But I've had people come in and say, I came home one day. My clinic was all in person before I moved. I was in Pennsylvania. We've since moved to South Carolina in the past year. And I sold my clinic. But in one day, I had two people come in and say, you saved my life. And I said, no, I didn't save your life. They're like, no, you saved my life. I was so sick when I came in and now I feel good. I feel great. I feel human. It wasn't me. It was that person got the tools they needed and they put them into practice and they did the things and it's transformative. So I've seen people had a 72-year-old client and she came in 50 pounds overweight. She had been struggling with that on and off. She lost and found that same 50 pounds since she was in her 20s. She came to see me and we were able to do all this healing. She would come in and say, I'm cleaning up my attic. My husband wonders who I am and what I've done with his wife. She lost 50 pounds. She said, I wish I found you in my 20s. This is amazing. So I've seen things like that to where I've seen someone else who was a kitchen designer and she was in chronic pain due to that systemic inflammation. And when we got these things dialed in, her pain was gone. And I have more energy. My pain is gone. I'm living my life now before I was hobbling through. I've seen their countenance change, their radiance has changed, their complexion, always energy. Energy is always affected. Sleep is usually improved, all those pieces.
It's crazy how all encompassing it can be when something like you would think, oh, okay, leaky gut, maybe it's not so terrible, but it really can affect every aspect of your life.
It really can, especially when that systemic inflammation kicks in, because now you've got joint pain, rashes, fatigue, brain fog, and poor sleep. And that kind of feels like everything, you know?
I'm sure some people listening are probably like, okay, I would love to get a handle on this. I obviously can't do it myself. I need some help. I need some coaching. Do you do coaching, Lisa, or where would you direct them?
I do. So since moving, I have a podcast too, and I'm sure we'll shout that out here in a minute. Since moving, I've really spent most of my time just making sure that continues to be on solid ground. I'm working with a few clients virtually, and I have a wait list
Mm.
for the rest until I'm able to really feel like all the pieces. I've had one of those years, Kendra. You just cannot like sold my business. We sold our house at 22 years. All of our parents have gone into homes this year,
Oh,
my husband's and mine, and became empty nesters all at the same time and moved far away. So we're just still making sure I get my legs under me. I tend toward a little bit of workaholism to way too many hours. I'm learning new boundaries and I'm trying to protect that. There are some wonderful folks. In terms of me, I do have a good bit of free resources on my website, lisasmithwellness.com. If you just click on there and you'll see some different free resources. And that's why I started my podcast nearly 3 years ago. It's called Pretty. And I started that to have impact because I found one on one, I was limited to one on one, and I have
great.
so much free information people can take that's life changing. So I'm pretty well. There's just every week life changing information.
So they can go to that if they feel like this really resonates with them. They might have leaky gut or other things. It sounds like you talk a lot about hormone health and reducing stress, lots of different things that will help improve your physical and overall wellness. Is that right?
That's exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So where can we find you?
lisasmithwellness.com. And also, Pretty Well is on social.
Mhm.
It's Pretty Well Podcast on Instagram is primarily where I post. Sometimes I try to get it on Facebook, but I'm not very techy. Basically, Instagram is the best place to find me. And then, of course, wherever people listen to their podcast, like this fabulous podcast, they'll find Pretty Well as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. Before we close, I just want to ask if there's any final advice you'd give to our listeners when they're feeling these things resonate with them. Any closing wisdom you could leave with us?
First of all, for the stress management piece, which is a non negotiable,
Mm.
is to continue listening to you and learning from you. That's absolutely necessary. And then from a gut health standpoint, this is life changing. When we think about our gut, I've talked about leaky gut, but when we think about our microbiome, that's the makeup of our gut. That's the good bacteria, the bad bacteria. We always want the good to outnumber the bad. And to do that, there's some really simple things you can do. The coolest thing is your gut microbiome starts to shift within 3 days of making changes. So you may not feel it, but it's literally getting healthier, which means your brain's getting healthier, you're bringing down inflammation. And a really great way to do that is to make sure you're getting the right amount of probiotics. Those are good bacteria. We get those from yogurt and kefir and kombucha and sauerkraut that's been cultured. Even just getting a good probiotic with maybe 12 different strains. And I would say you want at like about 10 billion. It sounds like a lot, but you want something that's really going to work. Another option is a probiotic just called Saccharomyces boulardii. I can give it to you and you can spell it and put it in show notes. That was amazing as well. So getting those good probiotics boosted in your gut is huge. But also, if you're building an army, what do you have to do to keep it alive? The prebiotics are the feed for probiotics, and those you can get through food, but you want to be intentional. Really important to reduce those ultra processed, junky packaged foods, replace them with whole foods. Prebiotic foods are things like onions, leeks, garlic, apples, bananas, avocado, kiwi. Those things actually feed those probiotics in your gut and keep them alive and flourishing, which will have an impact on your whole body.
I love that. It just breaks it down into simple things we can do. So those prebiotics with the food that she mentioned, and then the probiotics, those 10 billion strands, you'll tell me and I'll put those in the show notes for them to check out. And then they can also check you out on
My website's lisasmithwellness.com. Then my Pretty Well doesn't have its own website, but it has a page on lisasmithwellness.com.
Okay, perfect. Wonderful. Thank you again for coming on the show, Lisa.
Thanks for having me, Kendra. That was fun.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Please head to our show notes to get the links for Lisa and for our pages as well. And if you could please leave us a review, that would be great. And head over to our website to see all of our new courses. We have a huge lineup now. We have parenting courses, podcasting courses, and marriage courses. And we would love to see you there.